What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Tendo Show. This is yet but another pre-recorded podcast. We like to do some of our shows live, and we're going to be talking a little bit today on today's show about future plans for more live shows so that you can come hang out with us when we do this, rather than us just sitting here like crazy people talking in our living room. But there's a few more things that we're going to talk about today. We're taping this the day before 4th of July, and it will be posted same day, but by the time most of you watch this, it will be 4th of July. So to our American friends, happy Independence Day. To the rest of you, happy Friday. We're going to talk a little bit about that, though, because there's some funny stuff going on here in town because of this American holiday. But we're also going to talk a little bit about things going on with our channel, Hannah's channel, and then at the end of this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the new Fast and Furious movie, because we just went and watched it in theaters right before taping this, and I don't know. I think there's a healthy conversation that can be had about Fast and Furious because we have varying opinions here. We'd like to hear some of your opinions. If you don't care at all about Fast and Furious, well, stick around anyways, because it will be, a more literary pop culture conversation anyways, and where Fast and Furious place is amongst the zeitgeist of our pop culture. I don't think that terminology makes any sense. It kind of does. But we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the show, just because I'm a lifelong Fast and Furious fan, and there's some funny stuff in regards to the new movie to talk about. And if you're worried about spoilers about that because you're a huge Fast and Furious fan, I don't think we're going to spoil too much. There might be light spoilers, but we're going to more talk about what Fast and Furious is and isn't. But Hannah, before we get into any of that, how has your week been?
It was kind of fast. It went by quickly.
Do you feel like we just sat here and did last week's podcast?
Yeah.
I really do too. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's because if you just stumbled across this video, this podcast, because you saw Fast and Furious title and you don't know about us, we are daily vloggers turned weekly vloggers, and we are adjusting to a brand new life with this weekly schedule rather than this daily schedule, and it's really messed with our time.
Yeah.
Almost immediately we started going to bed at midnight and waking up at 6 and 8 to 10. I sleep a lot less than she does, but now it's turned into like 4 o'clock in the morning to noon, and it's just all over the place. And I solely blame making that switch.
Yeah, I blame Lord of the Rings.
Well, that's true too. As soon as we switched from daily posting now to weekly posting, we realized we had a lot more time to do things like watch movies, which is why we've been going to the theater a lot, and we'll be talking about Fast and Furious. But the first thing that did it, you're right, we stayed up until like sunrise watching the first 2 Lord of the Rings extended cuts.
I've never been more angry at myself than the day that we're like, oh God, the sun is coming up now.
Right. That's exactly what happened, and we were like, we could never do this again. But we did it the next 2 or 3 nights in a row, watching the rest of the Lord of the Rings and then The Hobbit, and then starting it all over. And almost, I think we might have completed it all one more time. Which I don't want to turn this into a Tolkien conversation, but I feel like even if you think you're good at observing movies and stuff, Tolkien in movie form or book form, either one takes just the utmost amount of consideration and processing and almost studying. I had a conversation with my brother's girlfriend, who is just probably one of the bigger bookworms I know. At least that's my idea of her. And Tolkien came up in conversation because we were talking about the same thing. And I remember us coming to a pretty funny agreement that, like, Tolkien is fun for some people, but if you're not looking for a literary challenge, an academic challenge, I think was the word I used, you're not going to enjoy reading Tolkien. I don't think. Some people are going to disagree with me because some people are super into fantasy and that's what they read it for. But there's just so many casual readers out there, which I probably lean towards, that you just can't understand as much about Tolkien as there is to be understood unless you're just going to study it.
Yeah. I remember the first time I tried to read The Hobbit, I just didn't retain any of it.
Really?
Like, I couldn't get into it. Couldn't understand what I was trying to read. Like, I just wasn't ready for it.
Well, still to this day, I have only read The Hobbit. I've never read any of the Lord of the Rings. I want to, and I honestly lately have been keeping an eye out for a set of the books at the thrift. There's these really nice vintage sets that come in all paperback, and it's like a box set of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I've just been looking for a complete one that's nice so I can have one to carry around with us when we travel or something, because I have been reading a lot more lately. Since our sleeping schedule's been so weird, I actually just reread about half of the first Harry Potter book, which is probably the first time since definitely my teenage years. And I'm 30. I'll be 31 this year. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Someone do the math. But I want to finally read The Lord of the Rings, but at this point, I don't know if I'll get around to it. I've been personally watching a lot of YouTube channels that are completely dedicated to talking about Tolkien. I mean, we're talking very specific one-off videos just about this single object, or these single one-off videos about the entirety of Gandalf's travels in the whole story arc. And that's been my consumption lately. So I feel like I know probably way more than anyone should about Tolkien that has never read the books, right? Because there's also a lot of endless little things about the movies that do or don't make sense based off the book, and I've been consuming all this. It's been my main form of entertainment since we went from daily videos to weekly videos. It's just been absorbing Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings YouTube content.
Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to those YouTube videos too. Like, I don't have as much interest in Tolkien as you do, but like, now I understand the entire journey took a year to the day.
Right.
Like, I know that.
Well, it will be like riding in the car, and I'll just have this like deep thought about a specific character or something in Tolkien, and I'll start talking to Hannah, and she'll have this really almost educated response to it. And I remember saying to you the other day, did you ever in your wildest dreams expect to know this much about Tolkien?
Yeah, no, never.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, and please comment below if this is the case, but I'm sure there will be people watching who do have a love for the books and have read them. And it's going to sound very funny to hear someone talk about it in depth that hasn't read the books. And at this point, I'm going to read the books just so I can say that I did, so that when I have these conversations in the future, someone will take me a little bit more serious, which is silly, but it's just such a funny thing because there's just, I honestly believe you could all but be a Tolkien expert just studying it. I don't want to say without reading it. You're never going to be an expert without reading it, but like there's just not many, what I'm trying to say is there's not many fandoms or fantasy worlds out there. There's pretty much Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter are about the only two that you'll come up with that have this massive following to the level that they do, that to the point where it's created YouTube channels. There are YouTube channels. Star Wars is definitely another one, in Star Trek. So I'm not talking in a wide enough range here, but there's very few things in the world where you could just never read the books and you could still absorb all of it in depth.
It's pretty crazy, like, knowing that now YouTube is such a good tool for people. Like, all those people who made the YouTube channels had to read all those books and study every single detail and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, they left in October. I didn't read the books.
Yeah, but I know the month that they left the Shire.
Yeah, like, I know everything.
Proven point. I mean, it's such an odd little fact. But this is all such a funny conversation because we're going to end this conversation here in a little bit with Fast and Furious, which is so wildly in the other direction. It's pulp, as they say. Yeah. It's there's no essence really to the story of Fast and Furious. I guess family, but that's almost a meme at this point. But we'll get to that. But I do absolutely love me some Lord of the Rings, and I'll update you guys maybe in a near future podcast when we get to actually reading them. But I think I might actually refinish Harry Potter first, because I did dive in that rabbit hole. You went to sleep, I wasn't sleepy, And I brought up the ebook on my phone and sat there and just read so much of it. And it's honestly, Lord of the Rings was to blame to the first off sleep schedule. Now this one, it's going to be Harry Potter.
Quick question. When you were a child, when the
Yep.
books were coming out, were you one of those midnight kids that went to the store and got it right when it first
was
on the shelf?
That's a great question. So I'll tell you my Harry Potter history before we move on. The first book we had this period that was like after lunch, and a lot of you it would be like a study period or something. I don't know why it was, but in 5th grade specifically, we had an after lunch period. It wasn't a study group. It wasn't anything. I don't know why. I honestly want to almost reach out to this teacher and ask her what it was, but we read the first Harry Potter book together. It wasn't an English class. Matter of fact, I think this teacher, she was our math teacher.
Interesting.
And
so like your seminar period, like that's what we called it.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is. I mean, I
It
know what
was
a
study
seminar
period.
is.
Yeah, we just had right after lunch a period of time in the day that was allotted for you to be able to do homework.
Right.
So that you can just kind of catch up on things. Maybe you got all your homework done so that whenever you went home, you didn't have to do it, like that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. During that period that we had, you as a class read Harry Potter?
Yes.
Interesting.
Not okay. So now again, there's going to be some differences here because you went to how many people were in your high school?
In the entire high school, maybe 200.
Okay, well, I think my graduating class was a little less than 200. So,
Mine was 36.
okay, so my whole school was probably closer to 1,000 or something. I don't really know. I don't really remember. I'm too far removed from it now. But for whatever reason, in my 5th grade year, we read Harry Potter in this study hall. A lot of you are going to have had a study hall or comment below, what did you call yours? Because we all had something like that at some point in our school history. And she had us read the first Harry Potter book, and it went in a way where every paragraph that started with a new indention was the next reader. So we would just run around the class. So you had to be ready for your part and be keeping up, and it just switched boom, 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 probably 20 kids going in this circle. So I don't know what we read, a chapter or so every one of these periods. So you probably read once or twice. And I, trying to be clever, would read way ahead, and I would just keep my finger on my paragraph and very nervously check back and forth. The teacher, of course, caught on to this and she acted like she was going to be really mad if anyone read ahead whenever she set this whole thing up. But when she found out that I did, not only was she not mad, she then, that year, subsequently, I think the 4th book was about to come out. I'm definitely a little bit wrong on this. I can't quite remember. But I read up to the 3rd book because she gave it to me.
Oh, okay.
Or she lent me her copy because she took an interest in me because I was way more interested than anyone in class about the Harry Potter books. So I while I was in her class, while the whole class was reading the first one, finished the first one in class, still participated in the reading.
Sure.
But before that class was ever even over that year, I had finished the 3rd one that she had lent me within just a matter of a few months. And then I recall getting on the waiting list at the library for the 4th one because my parents weren't quite on board. They didn't have any like Christian-y anti-magical sentiments, which
a lot of families did.
And we're not going to turn this podcast into that, but my best friend in the world, he was only ever able to read the Harry Potter books because I lent them to him because his parents had said sentiments. So the 4th one I got at the library, and by the time the 5th one came out, my parents had realized that I had a passion for reading, especially these books and stuff. So I think the 5th one on, I would go and purchase them. And I think it was the 5th book. So what is that, Half-Blood Prince? Or no, Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter. I think I was in New Mexico at the time visiting my mother. She lived there then. I'm from Kentucky. And we kind of figured it out that, I don't know if we heard from someone or what, but we basically ended up being able to, because of the different time zones and stuff, being able to just go to the grocery store at like 9 or 10 o'clock because by that time it was midnight East Coast.
Yeah.
And we picked it up at the grocery store, which was always a pro tip for books. If you don't know this now, it's still a thing. If there is some... I apologize if the video's cutting out. I'm seeing my video feed cut it out. But there's always going to be a line at the bookstore for these kind of midnight releases, which now COVID, et cetera, this may be a thing of the past. But you could always just go to the bookstore and get these new releases super easy. And that's what I did for 5 through 7.
That's interesting. Like, if you'd have asked me, like, can you get a book at Kroger? I'd be like, maybe.
Yeah, no, you always could. My favorite author outside of, the obvious ones is a suspense writer named Harlan Coben. I just always enjoyed his writing style. I mean, his plots are cool and stuff, but his writing style just always intrigued me, and I always got those books at release at Kroger.
You know what's funny? I don't really have a favorite author per se, but we had the accelerated reader program in our school, and so I needed those points every year to be able to pass my classes. And Mary Higgins Clark books were high point value and on audiobook at the library in our hometown. And so I read so many Mary Higgins
just to get your points.
Books, yes, while playing The Sims.
Listen, this is probably going to reveal too much about myself, but there's a lot of ways in which I didn't excel in academia the way that I could have, certainly through grade school, high school, and even into college. I found ways to just kind of get by, and one of the ways I did was 5th grade on. Every year we had, and again, I don't know where you guys are from or what you had, but we had to get X number of accelerated reader points per year, or we couldn't pass our English class of each year. So I found out really quickly, and I don't know why I tried it the first time, but I found out that every year they told you it had to be different books, but every year their systems didn't carry over. So I just retook the Harry Potter AR quizzes, which I knew these books to endlessly, So I just every year would just retake 1 or 2 Harry Potter book AR quizzes, and I never took any other points. And I think a teacher probably could have figured out what I was doing if they looked harder or something, but no one ever said anything.
That's funny. You're lucky. That was not only completely not allowed and never gonna work, but like they would. I think the 3rd Harry Potter book, the test from the automated system, was in line with the movie. So word got around that you could just watch the movie and you'd be able to take that test.
You were lucky enough that the questions weren't too deep that the movie didn't suffice.
But by the time that I got around to taking the test, they figured it out and changed the question.
Gosh, it made them a little bit deeper, probably.
It.
Well, that's enough talk about fantasy worlds. We'll certainly make more podcasts in the future about that kind of stuff. I guess the last thing I could say about it all is, when we've talked about different ideas for future channels or different endeavors, there's a little part of me that loves that stuff so much that thought I could do what some of those guys do and pick a fandom and just make a Star Wars channel or something. I'm not going to do this, but I do appreciate those people that do. But it is 4th of July, or it's about to be. So to kick off that conversation, I want to ask you, Hannah, if you've noticed. Did you notice when we came home yesterday to our apartment complex, the confetti all over the sidewalk up to our apartment?
The exact same confetti cannon that we shot off for our 1,000 sub.
Yesterday, the cannon was actually still laying there on the ground.
Oh my God.
But the walkway up to our apartment complex is so filled with confetti right now that it's kind of funny. And it just keeps getting funnier because we came home and there was a confetti cannon as soon as you were walking up, just like someone threw the trash on the ground. And then you walked and there was confetti everywhere yesterday. And then I walked outside this morning and the confetti had kind of been blown off the sidewalk because we have people that work every day at our apartment complex to clean the sidewalks and stuff. So it's just kind of like parted like the Red Sea. So now the rock beds, now mind you, we're out west where there's no grass. So the sidewalks are surrounded by rock. but the rock is just like beautifully confettied. And it was just weird because I was like, my only use of confetti cannons has been like our 1,000 sub video. We shot one off here in this room that you guys sent us. And so there's a little bit of comedy to them for us because like this has been 2 years ago or something now. I don't know exactly how long, but it's been a long time, and we will still occasionally find a piece. And you would think it would be like, oh, then your cleaning habits are bad. But no, like these confetti bits hide in the strangest places.
I don't understand it. Yeah, it'll be like, wait, we've cleaned here before.
Yeah.
How is this here now?
Right. So some of it maybe at one point ended up on top of our bookshelves. I don't know. So I say that stuff to say I can't imagine how long we're going to see this confetti out there.
Oh, it's going to be a long time.
I don't know if it'll degrade a little bit when it rains. I would imagine maybe they try to engineer to do so because it is paper. It is all paper confetti. It's not like it's some metallic. I know they make some that are like this metallic foil stuff that may not degrade or decompose.
Well, it is tissue paper, so I wonder if when it does biodegrade that the color will like stick onto the rock and then we'll have pretty rocks forever.
Well, that might get weird, but that's not even the end of it because I came out again when I came back from my last pass of it and laughed at it. I realized, I don't know if you noticed this, but the other direction, because that was one direction outside of our apartment complex, there's a rock bed outside our door right there. It's got even more, like somebody set off 5 of them.
No.
So at first my head went, why is someone just shooting confetti cannons? It doesn't make any sense at all. Like that's not a very good firework. But then I went, oh, you may not know this. I know there will be people watching who are not in America. You might know this. You might have seen some of this on the news. But like we're just year by year getting worse and worse with our droughts and our fire troubles. So like, case in point, my brother lives just a couple hours north of here, and the town he lives in was just surrounded by fires, and it came closer than comfortable to an evacuation order. And so there's some way more serious than ever fire bans and firework bans going on this year. So normally people ignore them also. So like it'll eventually come around to the 4th, and people will shoot off the fireworks, and you'll be like, you'll hear just sirens running all over the place. But it looks like so far we haven't heard any going off.
No, it's been pretty quiet.
And I think maybe people are taking it a little serious and just getting non-fire fireworks. I know some confetti cannons do have a little bit of a spark inside of them, but they don't shoot any sparks. It's just an internal combustion to project the paper.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, fireworks are cool and all, but, causing forest fires is never a good thing.
And our weekly episode, our second weekly episode, we went on a camping trip, and like there were extra signs out for the no fire burn.
Don't do it.
It just normally, I mean, it's a serious thing anyways, but it just feels even more heightened. So I doubt there will be any publicly sponsored fireworks here in Phoenix, anything of the sort whatsoever, which, I mean, it doesn't matter too much. When was the last time we went to some public celebration fireworks?
I want to say it was back when we were living in LA. I really wanted to go to fireworks on the beach one time.
Yeah, that would be the last one.
We did that.
And honestly, I think it might have even been the first time we were in California when it was just an extended trip. So we're talking like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time. Probably more than that.
Yeah.
6 or 7.
Well, we're from small towns that put on fireworks shows and make a bigger deal of it than these large cities we have lived in for the last few years. So where we come from, it was a lot more normal to go to a fireworks show, but it hasn't been here. But I have gotten a good chuckle out of the confetti cannon.
That is funny. I mean, it's a good solution, I guess, to what you're talking about, but I feel really bad for the maintenance people that have to try to clean that up.
Yeah, have to clean all of it up. So, I don't know. Comment below. Let us know what you guys are going to do for 4th of July, or what you did do if you're watching it after the fact, if you're in America. But, the rest of you guys, your Independence Days or similar holidays are all over the place. It always comes to my attention somehow, the Canadian Independence Day, or I don't even know what they call it.
Oh, I don't know either. I was like, all I can think about is Mexico's Cinco de Mayo, which
Right.
is
Is
its
a-
own history.
Yeah, which is its very specific independence from something specific. But July 1st, I just Googled it. British North America, Canada was established as self-governing within the British Empire.
Good for you.
July 1st. So, wait, but I feel like, when is Canada Day? We're going to get to the bottom of this.
We're going to learn all about Canada right now.
It says July 1st, so I could have sworn it wasn't that close. Maybe I'm thinking of like your Thanksgiving. That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh.
Canadian Thanksgiving. I think it would come to October 11th. See, that makes
Okay.
sense. I think it would come as no surprise to most of you watching. Our second biggest audience is most often, though not always, sometimes random countries will overtake it from month to month just because of whatever YouTube's algorithm's doing. But it always comes to my attention because there's so many of you watching from Canada when some of your holidays are, and I'm just always like, very interesting. But maybe somebody Canadian watching can comment below and let us know how your Independence Day works and if you guys are possibly having any firework. I don't even know with other countries how serious they take their fireworks, but here in America, it can be pretty serious.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember the first time we were living in LA for 4th of July?
Yeah, I remember a couple things about it. So where are you trying to go?
I remember, growing up in a small town, fireworks were always like this thing that the city did, and you went down to the park and you got to go see the fireworks,
Right.
or like you go out to the country where my grandma lived and you could go shoot them off yourself. And
Right.
so fireworks were a joyous, like, fun occasion. But when we were in LA, I felt like we were in warfare. Like, it was terrifying.
Well, so two things. Let me start with a positive for fireworks in LA. So I kind of might have lied to you. The first time we traveled to LA, it was an extended trip for a job thing that Hannah was doing. It was like a few months, and then we came back for a couple years before we moved out there permanently. So that first trip, we saw some fireworks on the beach, an organized thing. The city, it was San Luis Obispo. So I don't think that's even in Santa Barbara County. So LA County, Santa Barbara County, I'm going up the coast, and then the next county, I don't know, and then I guess Orange County below all that. But that county, maybe it's Slow County, I don't know, but they put on a fireworks show, sponsored. It was cool. It was on the ocean. It was great. And I was like, you can't top this.
Yeah.
Right? The last time I watched fireworks before that was in my hometown. They kind of did a cool thing. They always had orchestra playing while it was happening. It was
fancy.
It was neat, but it was definitely topped by just seeing this over the ocean at sunset. It was really neat. I thought it could never be topped. But we did accidentally, I might add, end up on top of a mountain in LA on a 4th of July. And from the mountain, you could see the whole city. And we saw just the whole city of LA. We're talking, I mean, let's just say population of LA is 3.9 million. So 4 million people, right? We're talking about more people than some of your countries that are watching, more people than a lot of the states that you might be in the United States. All those people shooting off fireworks at once all over town. And so it wasn't just like a neat fireworks show. It was just this like strange, you'll never understand it unless you're there, landscape of sparks of different color, a different array of sparks. And that was one of probably the most neat firework displays I've ever seen. Because it wasn't orchestrated. It was chaos.
Yeah.
Most of those people were unable to see, but maybe 4 or 5 other people in their surrounding area shooting some off.
Yeah.
So they had a cool show, but we saw 1 million plus fireworks going off over the course of about an hour after sunset.
The amount of firework gunpowder going off in LA on 4th of July after, like, once sunset hits, it's just unbelievable. There's just so many people in there just like, let me shoot one off, and then they do, and then just 4 million people just shooting.
It's nuts. You should definitely, if you're ever in LA on 4th of July, go up in the mountains and look down. That's all I can tell you. So that was the positive. Now the negative, and this isn't just LA, honestly, it's been the same way here in Arizona and I've experienced this back in Kentucky. Certain parts of town, any place you're going to be, 4th of July, and a lone firework goes off. Especially, this hasn't happened, and I've been surprised where we are now. Usually in the weeks leading up to 4th of July, and often even the weeks leading up to and following New Year, there will just be random fireworks lit off.
Yeah.
And, if you're close enough, you can tell when a bottle rocket's a bottle rocket.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just hear the pop, and you're like, oh my God, it's a gunshot.
Yeah.
And there definitely was a sense when we first moved to L.A., it was almost like a gamble, like 50-50. Was it a gunshot? Yeah. Was it a firework? So that was pretty wild in LA, but it's definitely happened here too.
Yeah.
But it hasn't this time because I think everyone's too afraid to actually be the one to start the fire here. So
yeah, I mean, I think last month, right in the beginning of the month, I was very confused. I thought it was July last month already.
Oh, wow.
So remember whenever I was in the beginning of the month, I was like, oh, it's July 4th. We were about to go on the camping trip. I was like, I don't know if we need to be out in the woods during 4th of July. And you're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, it's July 4th. He's like, it's June. I was like, oh, last night I heard people shooting off fireworks. So I just assumed.
You just went, oh, it's July. Well, that's another product of our trip from daily posting to weekly posting. Just time doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But 4th of July, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. It's I don't know, we're not doing anything, so I want to say I'm looking forward to it. We'll probably just go eat a lot of food, so it'll be fun. But let's talk a little bit about one more thing before we move on to talking about Fast and Furious. Some more things going on with the channel because I just said life's been weird. We made a whole podcast last week, which go watch it if you haven't already, just about what we've experienced and stuff. But I guess we can say we just shot Hannah's first video for her channel, and
we did.
It went pretty well. We overdid it a little bit, so the editing on my part is going to be a little bit difficult, but
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it because it should turn out really pretty. But how are you feeling about that? Like, in all seriousness, like an honest answer, how are you feeling about making content of your own? Because let me just, before you answer the question, kind of lay out to this point. You even said on last week, you made a good point about how things haven't changed. They've changed a lot for you, but not quite in the same way, because up until this point, our content creation has just been me kind of saying, let's do this, and you just kind of showing up with your camera and doing what you do, just making sure you get it on camera. Not so much planning, but now, like, we're sitting here with documents, planning out content and stuff. It's a little bit different for you.
Yeah, so doing the first video, like, I have been thinking a lot about it and like, okay, these are things that I need to say. This is how I want to present myself in front of the camera. This is how I want the video to look in my head, but actually standing there and doing it, I was quite nervous.
Right.
And trying to spit words out in a way that makes sense to other people other than just me,
right,
is actually quite a bit of a challenge for me.
Yeah, I've made a living off of communicating ideas and thoughts, whether it be my earlier video career, even my earlier career as a technician in a studio. Like, communication was all that mattered, and it definitely prepared me for what we're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. I know sometimes I say here and go a little too far and make things a little too confusing, but we don't exactly share the same skill sets. Honestly, if we did, what we do together would probably be boring, but your skill sets are often more visual, mine are often more verbal, and so this experience for this first video was definitely a lot of, like, you would try to say something, and I'd be like, well, let's simplify it to this, because these people that are gonna. So the video, not to give too much away, you're creating something, you're making something, and you're very technically inclined at making these things. You can sew really well, and all the terminology. And we're sitting here trying to gauge, like, well, are we making a tutorial for people that kind of know how, but not as good as you? Are we making a form of entertainment for people who perhaps watch our channel, want a little bit more of what you do, which currently is kind of our goal. That's how you can definitely start a channel. So we're like trying to figure out a way this whole time to communicate these things.
Yeah, because I feel most comfortable whenever I can be like, okay, now we need to, top stitch. I need to do, like, I can start spitting out lingo, but I really didn't want it to be a tutorial on
Right.
how to make this certain thing, because that's just, in my head, not as entertaining as just enjoying it.
Right.
So for that, I needed to be a little bit more entertaining rather than factual and educational. So there was a little bit of like nervousness with like trying to do it well, I guess. So I mean, saying that to say, like, I mean, I haven't watched back all the footage yet. I'm a little nervous to watch it back. I don't know if it was this way for you or not, but whenever you first started the channel, if you were uncomfortable watching yourself and be like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing.
Well, luckily, by the time we started, I was well into a attempt at a film career and, some other things. One of the earliest lessons I learned doing the kinds of things we do was actually I worked at this recording studio, video production house, and one of the earliest parts of my job I realized was going to be getting people to be comfortable on camera, and more importantly to this story, comfortable with the sound of their voice.
Yeah.
You would have these people who had been lifelong musicians come into the music studio who had never recorded anything, but had just played their whole life, and they would do one sitting inside of the vocal booth. Now we're talking full-on professional foam, like a $10,000 microphone plugged into a $10,000 preamp, ran into a $1 million interface into a $10,000 computer. Real studio, real equipment, lights on, high stakes. You're paying hundreds of dollars an hour to be there. And these people would fall apart because they would hear that recording for the first time in high quality, So don't get me wrong, these people probably tried to record themselves on their phone or their home desk, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't live with the sound of themselves in their ears. They couldn't figure out. It just wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I learned this early on because the first time I bought recording gear for audio I was 14 years old or something. So at 14, I recorded my voice in my bedroom at high quality, heard it back, and went from there. So that's the long way of saying no. When we started the channel, I didn't have that problem, but I do remember. Not only do I remember the genesis of that problem, but I remember helping so many people get through it. You know, when they were paying me tons of money to record them.
Well, and it's funny because like I watch myself on our videos all the time. Like I know what I sound like. I know what I look like on camera, but I feel a lot more comfortable in those situations. Like I'm way more used to just being in a Goodwill pointing a camera at myself.
Did you, when we started doing it? I mean, the first weeks, a year and a half ago when we started this channel, our channels, did you?
I feel like no, because it wasn't as high stakes for me.
Because like at the beginning, like 100 people were watching.
Well, not just that, but it's like, it was, whenever it started, it was like, okay, I'm participating in your video for the first time.
Well, yeah, at the beginning, it was just me filming my hands picking through video games.
Yeah, so it was like, well, it doesn't matter if they don't like me or not because they're watching it for you, that kind of feeling. And so it really wasn't a big deal. As it grew, I got more comfortable with it, and so I never had that awkward feeling. But like with this one, though, it's like it is me.
It has your name on the channel. Like your name is on the channel. You're the only one that shows up on camera,
right? And so it's like it's way higher stakes. So I feel like it's I don't know. I keep talking about it in a way like it's going to be super awkward and uncomfortable to watch because I feel that way.
I think a lot of people, I mean, you have to understand YouTube has like, I don't remember the number. It's something like 2,000 hours per minute uploaded to YouTube, or maybe it's 200 hours per minute or per second. Any one of those minutes to hours to thousands to hundreds is a mind-boggling amount of content.
Yeah.
So that rolls over into being there's 1,000 people a day trying to start a YouTube channel. And, if you've never been on our Discord, go join it because there is plenty of people who will share their blossoming YouTube channels that they're just starting out. And I often watch a few. just to kind of keep up with what's going on and what people are into. And it's a curious thing to see which ones are going to stick around and stick around, because like when we met our good friends Ivan and Monique, there's a lot of talk between us about they wanted to do YouTube and whether or not they're going to be doing it, and they've ultimately become one of the people that we've followed who have been successful and continue to find success. And there's plenty of other examples of this, people that start out and end up, I check back later and they're at a couple thousand subs and doing great. And there's a couple people I'll think, I remember that one video they posted, I liked it, and I'll check back and they'll have only ever posted that. They did it once and were so terrified, most likely by exactly what you're saying, that they just never did it again.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's tricky to get out of your own head with that and, let it be what it is and let people decide how they feel about it. Because really it's out of your control once, you did it, you tried, and, how people receive it is entirely up to them.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about YouTube is that you can be yourself. And if you try hard enough for long enough, it will attract either people that are looking for what you are or are not, or people that are like-minded like you. Like, there is room for you. So it's an interesting thing because so many people will start channels and the awkwardness they feel will cause them to act a certain way. And then they realize that there's some little bit of magic in their awkwardness and that becomes their thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to really call out any examples of this, but you probably can think of people that you like that are funny to you in a particular way that plenty of other people aren't going to like. But you can also imagine the kind of mental stress it could cause if you go into something with anxiety and your anxiety is actually causing something people to like. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the kind of cycle this can create?
Yeah.
You have to, when you go into making a YouTube channel, you have to be very mentally strong because, like, I can recall usernames and comments of people in week one or year one of what we do that just, like, thought we were just the worst, Like, I for whatever reason, when something's funny anymore, I barely even laugh. I just go, lol. I don't know where I picked it up from, but I do that. But there's people that will come across our channel and just think that so specifically is the cringiest thing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. The thing that YouTube either taught me or perhaps I already kind of understood, but it drove home, was that we live in a world full of weird balances, gray areas, and complete opposites. There's so much that I can find morally perfectly fine, as well as separate from that, there's things that I can also find funny and not funny that you could be watching and just disagree to the moon and back, right? There's these weird subsets of people on YouTube who hate anybody that has anything resembling our mail time.
Yeah. If
you accept a single thing, whether it be $1 on Patreon, or like we don't have Patreon, we have a YouTube community membership that you can join on our main page. But like there are communities of people that are only built up around just hate for that. There's entire channels that only make content just hating on people that do that. And again, from a moral standpoint, for us, it's a part of our channel. It's a fun part that people request to no end.
Yeah.
And like now, there's a giant stack of packages over here that we need to get to, but we're doing weekly videos, so we haven't figured out how to fit them in. And but there's just like, that's one small example of how like we can do something so seemingly so harmless to us and then receive so much hate for.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here complaining about that. It just is what it is. But like, if you want to start a YouTube channel and you, with your anxieties over that, if you don't find a way to just squash these things and just go, you know what, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing at the end of the day because I'm choosing to do this. I just have to move past the negativity. If you don't learn how to do that, you'll never get to 1,000 subs. You will either never get there because you won't be driven enough to do it, or you'll get there and you will be swallowed by the anxieties that caused you to doubt it in the first place.
For me, it was like I had I had built up so much in my head about the first video. Like I knew that milestone was going to be difficult for me because I was like, well, it's got to be good. This is like my entrance into YouTube, my debut, that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, I decided that I just needed to do it.
Right.
Despite all the stuff in my head about it, despite the odds, just get it done. And then after that one, you'll be able to move forward and feel more comfortable because you've already done one. Like you get it, you've done it, just move past it and then you'll be fine.
I don't envy you any because when I dropped into doing YouTube, I was someone who already had vast experience with video, with being on camera, and I just kind of meandered into doing it. I was like, I'm going to do this thing. No one was watching. Matter of fact, it still surprises me a little bit how far we went with just like 100 or a couple hundred views a day or something, which at the time, don't get me wrong, I don't want to make this sound like anything it isn't, seemed enormous.
Yeah, we were so excited that we had 100 views on a video.
Yeah, and every day.
Yeah.
Because we did daily videos even at the beginning. But now I scroll back and I remember these videos, and I think I just remember it with all you guys watching now already there with our like our latest video, I think is about to tick over 10,000 views.
That's so
in under a week,
exciting.
Which is huge, especially compared to what we're talking about. Because we used to post a video a day. If I woke up the next day and it had 100, I would just be like, "There's 100 people that clicked on this." So that's it's an interesting thing. And on this podcast, we'll probably continue from time to time, though certainly not every episode. Just talking about where we're at with YouTube because. I said this, I think, on last week's episode, but I know there's a lot of people, because they tell me, that are watching that have interest in doing YouTube and stuff, and there's definitely some things I've heard myself say where I just go, I wish I'd known this when I started, because the first biggest struggle with making your new YouTube channel is going to be making yourself go shoot the thing you need to make, because you're always going to kind of not want to do it. The second biggest thing is what we just discussed, just kind of moving past said differences with people, because you're looking for an audience that's into what you're into, and of course it's still going to draw a portion of your audience that's going to be the ones that hit the dislike button or calls you fat or whatever. But even though we're not the kind of people that brings us down.
No, it doesn't. I'm prepared for all of that stuff.
Right.
I'm prepared
because you've already got it.
Yeah, I'm prepared for people to watch this video and be like, "This is stupid," or like, "Oh my god, you're so cringe." I'll be like, "Yeah, I know."
That's kind of the idea.
Get over it or leave. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, last thing to talk about before we move on to a little bit of Fast and Furious talk. Let's talk about this podcast channel. And I think a good way to transition into that is like a lot of people have a lot of misunderstandings about the extra stuff we do. Everyone gets the Tendo channel, right? We posted daily and now we're posting weekly. It's never been unclear what you're coming to that channel for. Well, it's been misty, but it's never been muddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've changed it up a little bit and tried to go in different directions, but we have started several side endeavors. So there are some people that like just can't imagine why we have this channel for podcasts. We have another main channel with all of our subs, and then we have a Minecraft channel, and then we have then now your channel. We've got basically a Pokemon channel, and I think it's a perfect time to talk about this a little bit, because whenever we started our first other channel other than our main channel, it was Rubber Duck Yellow. We do Pokemon stuff and trading card game. That was the moment I started. That was the first time I had any doubts about what we were doing on our main channel. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't doubts in like, oh my God, I got to find something to switch to, but it was more doubts in like not putting all of our chickens in one basket.
Yeah.
But of course, there's been a long learning process because we did that. And it went fine, and honestly, it was set to go even better than maybe our main channel in some regards. But where we messed up was we did it around Pokemon cards, and the bottom fell out on access to pretty much anything Pokemon and trading card related. So I don't blame it entirely on that, because it's kind of coming back now, but I'm just kind of over it. But then we, a little bit later, started a Minecraft channel. But before we even started that, when I started this channel, because I'm looking ahead, and I knew we were going to come to a point where our live shows and stuff couldn't be on our main channel anymore. And I just thought, well, I should start it now and build it now, so when I'm ready for things in the future, we don't have to start from nothing. So, we're already heading towards 1,000 subs on this podcast channel, and if you're watching, I'd appreciate it if you go ahead and sub. But it's the same thing with your channel. We looked ahead to this from way back. I mean, how long have we discussed starting a channel that's just all you know me?
I mean, at least a year, I would say.
I mean, I think at the beginning we at least had whispers of it.
Yeah.
But definitely a year ago or so, we were like, yeah, you definitely need to have one. And a lot of it for me is like, I think our Minecraft channel is a good example of this. Like, unfortunately, I appreciate all of you watching, and I appreciate any of you who end up on our other channels. I really do. But at the same time, there's a lot of benefit from a business standpoint to have some different places with different audiences.
Yeah.
Because you guys come here for thrifting and Tendo and Hannah shenanigans. That's probably most of it. And some of you maybe for resale. A few of you ended up here maybe for the traveling, but stayed for us and our shenanigans maybe. But we've heard a lot of wonderful comments from you guys that have given us a lot of self-confidence, telling us why you're here or why you stayed. And I appreciate all those. But, at some point it's like we definitely need to preserve ourselves in the future. And my Minecraft channel, I think, is my best attempt at that so far. And I think your channel on your own will be your first and hopefully best attempt at doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought of several things to do for like me branching out into several different channels. I think for this channel, it's going to be pretty open-ended like our Tendo channel is.
Right.
Kind of allow whatever happens to happen. Whatever I feel like doing that week, we'll just do. But there's other things like brat stall hair cleaning and restoration, that kind of thing. Like, I don't think that fits into my world of YouTube channel right now. So eventually maybe I'll have my own separate channel for just brat stall
channel. And now listen, when we say this, I think there's some people that are going to be like, wait, you already have, like, how many channels do we have that we use? I mean, we have this channel, main channel, trading card game channel, and Minecraft channel. And then I have personal accounts that don't really have anything to do with this. Mm-hmm. But I have 4 accounts right now that I'm operating. And I think a lot of people would look at that and say, well, I don't want to watch all that. I'm not interested in all that. You're doing too much. But it's like, well, I started all that because I thought originally, and I don't think quite this way anymore, but I thought originally that perhaps I would put as much effort as I was into the daily videos into then weekly creating the same amount of content just on different channels and eventually grow separate audiences that, again, all my chicken's not in the same basket. If you aren't familiar with this, I don't know if I'm sure that's not just an American quote unquote colloquialism. I'm sure every language in the world has their own version of it, but it's foolish to put all your money into one thing.
Yeah, all your hope, all your dreams, all your
which
everything.
is why right now we make money from our antique malls, from YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to keep expanding that portfolio, as it were. And so at one point I thought, well, I'll just do a few channels, and my goal was always eventually to actually partner to hire people for each channel to basically like our gaming channel. So Minecraft, I want to hire somebody to play Minecraft with us and then edit it. So all I have to do is show up on Wednesday, which is when we play, and that person takes care of the rest. And then hopefully build a relationship where we split revenue with these people so that those people become personalities on that channel, but they're still under the Tendo and Hannah umbrella. This is the model. And I mentioned, I think last podcast, that there was a way in which we modeled ourselves after Linus Tech Tips, which I think a lot of people could have heard and been like, I don't understand what that means. But it's that kind of thing. The model for future YouTube is people having multiple channels. There are plenty of ways in the past where people have done it and it not been successful because it wasn't concise and it wasn't done in a way where it was all under an umbrella, so it was just confusing and you didn't know what channel to go to. But that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at 5 or 6 years from now when main channel has a lot more subs. I don't want to sit here and try to predict myself. I feel uncomfortable doing that, but a much bigger channel, and then these other endeavors that we're doing grows a team of people that end up being here for the podcast. So we all come together for a podcast, and we all go back out and shoot each other's videos together with these channels that we own. This is a model we want to grow into, and I've felt this way since the first video I posted. That's what I wanted. I don't just want to vlog. And I don't want an empire. A lot of people use that word. I just want this kind of bigger thing. So I'm saying all this because, you're talking about eventually doing multiple channels, but I just want it to sound like what we plan, because we have such a bigger plan than just like, if you have a Bratz channel, it's going to be because that's just something you enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. But it could hopefully make money, but it'll be an interesting experience because like how many people are that into Bratz dolls?
I don't know.
But there are some significantly large channels for that, because we had this discussion with The Sims.
Yeah.
Because you are such a huge diehard Sims fan. We own almost every single copy of every Sims media created, right over here on the shelf off camera. And we thought, well, could you start a Sims channel, or should we do a series? There's always these ongoing discussions. Should you do Bratz episodes on your channel, or should you start a channel for it? Should we start a Minecraft channel, or should we put those episodes weekly on Rubber Duck Yellow?
Yeah.
Should we start a Sims channel, or should we just put those episodes on Rubber Duck Yellow?
Yeah.
And it's just, this is the game we play with doing YouTube. We play this game endlessly, do we not?
A lot. Yeah.
you guys just see these polished videos, but behind the scenes, we are just talking constantly about how to implement the things we want to do, because she wants to play Sims.
Yeah.
And we want to monetize it. I don't know what else to tell you. I want to play Minecraft. I want to monetize it. My favorite videos I've ever made have been our Minecraft videos. I've never enjoyed putting a video together more than those Minecraft videos. I got a lot of enjoyment out of Rubber Duck Yellow when we started that channel, because it was a change from what we were doing, and I could see a path forward to something else. But I feel like I got it right with Minecraft. So at this point, our Rubber Duck channel is not dead. At this point, we're focusing on a little bit with your channel. There's only so much effort we have right now, but like, if our main channel exploded tomorrow and brought us 5 times more money, I would actually immediately use that money to pay somebody to come on board to run Rubber Duck Yellow, and basically the same thing. Show up here 1 or 2 days a week, shoot the week's worth of episodes with us, and then go out and edit them, and basically, that'd be their half the work, and split the revenue that way. But it would cost more money up front to get that going, to hire employees, and that's what I want for that. But I'm saying that so we can transition into a point where, I'm saying that because I wanted to make it clear the bigger picture, but also, maybe you could perhaps tell them how much we've discussed, like, well, what if tomorrow your channel blew up? Because we certainly at this point know way more about starting a channel than we ever could have imagined.
Yeah.
So your channel is going to have way better chance starting out. Not only because we have a lot of subs to go over from our main channel, but because we also know way more about the algorithm. So tell them about that and how much we've talked about that in the past.
I mean, we talked about it a ton. And I mean, I know that, like, from the very beginning, we're like, we just need one channel to be successful enough to make the rest of the channels work, and just start growing those a little bit more, just like you described, with like trying to hire somebody else to go take care of something.
Well, let me make I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I want to make this clear, because the point I was just trying to make is that our channels need to grow on their own without the subs from our main channel.
Right.
Which isn't, it almost sounds like what you said was contradictory, but it's not what you meant.
Yeah.
We need the money to pay for them.
Right. Yes.
So that they can grow their own audiences, or partially same audience and some other new people.
Right.
And so what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is we need a channel to work out so that we have the money to do whatever the F we want.
Right. Yes. So, I mean, with the idea with my channel is exactly that. Like, we're going to attract a different audience with my content than we did with the content that started the Tendo channel.
Right.
Like, there are certain people that are into gaming, and there are certain people who are into thrifting and sewing, and thrifting and gaming and thrifting and sewing people can be very different. And so hopefully we pull in a new audience of people who really like my channel, and hopefully that I kind of lost where I was going there with that.
Well, again, the original question I asked you was just like I almost answered. I asked you a question and answered it, so it's not your fault that you're losing train of thought. That was rude of me. We basically what I wanted you to tell them about was our conversations where we've had. Where like if your channel just took off tomorrow, what would happen with the rest? There's one way in which some of the other channels would die off because, if we've got enough money to just go on the road and travel.
Yeah. Because
your channel is making it. I am not so far above what we're doing. If you look at our channels and what we're doing, it definitely looks like I've built up a shrine around me. It's the Tendo, the cult of Tendo, I guess, if you want to make a bad joke out of it.
That could partially, I'm partially to blame for that because I don't want the limelight as much. Like I don't really feel like.
Or it's not that you don't want it as much. It's just that you just originally weren't someone who wanted it at all.
Right. Yeah. So it's like.
I just made a cult of Tendo joke, and you're like, I don't want the limelight as much as you. It just sounds. I mean, it sounds like what it is.
I know how it sounded, but I didn't mean it that way. So like, I mean, it's. Even like when you're like, hey, we're going to do this channel together. This is going to be a partnership. I was like, okay, great. That sounds good. But you're doing all the talking. You're doing all the camera work. You're doing all the editing because I can't do any of that.
Right. So, for sure.
I mean, it's partially, the model that we chose for the videos to make it seem like this is like all you and I'm just kind of here for it. And partially because that's what I wanted.
Right. Well, and then also, I mean, we had such a long discussion at the early, because there's always been this talk about if we're going to change the channel to like Tendo and Hannah or Dallas and Hannah, why and when and how. And this is honestly too long of a conversation. We're hitting the hour mark and we still have to talk about Fast and Furious, but it's fine. Well, I'm not above a 3-hour podcast. I don't care. But we've had these conversations where like, if we're going to do that, when are we going to do it? And what's going to be the point of it? And it's like, well, for me, like the Tendo thing is cool. Mm-hmm. And it is from an advertiser standpoint, it is neat and it is useful. When I tell people randomly in public that want to go look up my channel, just Tendo, Tendo, search it.
Right.
If you search Tendo on YouTube, go do it now. I come up, if not at the top, very close. There's a rapper named Tendo, I guess, and then the word Tendo itself is like in Nintendo. Tendo is like the name of a dojo, or it's complicated exactly what it was, but there's other things out there, and of course Nintendo, you would worry about Nintendo just coming up and being buried, but it didn't. Very early on we found that like Tendo is very easily searchable. You search it, my face with the yellow background comes up, and that was very successful for us. But at the same time, like I like my name.
Yeah.
I've grown to like it. I didn't like it when I was younger. When I did music, I'd call myself other things, but I do not mind my name, and I at some point wouldn't mind just my own channel being Dallas Blanton and yours being your name, or whatever. But these are all pretty small things, and in the long run, this channel looks destined to just stay Tendo because it's become something that is, I don't mean iconic as in world famous iconic, but as an icon, as a character of what we do here as a consumer. And I say caricature because, I mean, there's this like cartoon bubble that is Tendo and Hannah and their goofiness. It's just become the Tendo thing.
Yeah. It's kind of built a life of its own.
Right. But I'm having this discussion because if I'm not, even though it looks like we've built this Tendo shrine, if tomorrow your channel skyrockets to the moon and then my job becomes mainly filming your stuff and editing it right now, because again, we didn't start your channel earlier because at that point I was shooting and editing daily. There was just no way I was going to add anything else to that. But now that we can, I think we can make your channel work out in a way that if it does and it becomes more popular than my channel, I think a lot of people will some people that dislike us will feel like it's just desserts. Because as long as we've been doing this, there's been those comments that are like, I'm only here for Hannah, or the other side of it, people that are just like, I like this channel, but I wish she would shut up. I don't care about this. There's always the one, right? So,
sure.
But I think there's people that really feel that way either way that would love to see one of us take off over the other. But like I personally, it's just like, I just want to keep making stuff, providing some entertainment. Whatever we go do with that stuff, we'll still have a podcast. We'll still have some other endeavors.
Yeah.
But like this whole conversation for me, where I at least am trying to lead it, is just like, if it grows, then what? You know?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are we going to do?
That's interesting. I mean, our plan always is to have multiple channels. So I don't feel like even if my channel grows to be the most popular, that we would let go of any of the other channels, or we would stop doing more content on other interests. But I don't know, maybe the focus would shift a bit to how we manage our time with the other channels. I don't think the Minecraft channel would go anywhere, but maybe like the Rubber Duck Yellow channel would change into something else. I'm not really sure.
Well, you never know. I mean, that's just how this works. And if anyone's watching, it's like, oh my God, Hannah's channel is going to work out and they're going to stop making their thrift videos together. I mean, I don't think so.
No.
But it's the same thing. Like, starting these other channels has been funny because it's like, yeah, maybe the Minecraft channel seems less likely because, like, who wants to watch these old farts play Minecraft? You know what I mean? Like, some of the more popular, fast-growing channels on YouTube, actually the fastest-growing channel on YouTube ever, I think at this point, is this young 20-something kid playing Minecraft, or these younger, even 18, 17-year-old kids just, like, killing it with Minecraft. But, like, we just want to play Minecraft, so I might as well screen capture it while we do. That's all that channel's ever been. But if your channel works out, if this channel even takes a different turn where we together can do something else and that's what works, it's just going to be what happens. I'm just trying to make the point that, like, I don't care. I'm so adaptable to any of it that if my life just becomes following you with a camera, I'm still going to be doing what I want. But that being said, you guys stick around because this channel that you're watching right now is just another example of this. I honestly, if I could pick one thing I wanted to do, if we had to move away from this, not that I'm trying to, it would be this channel doing a few pre-tape things a week and then a live show weekly like we were doing on our other channel. I would love to put way more effort into that, and I hope to find the ability to do that sometime. If it gets to the point where our channels are taking care of themselves, we're making one video together a week, it would very likely then become we make 3 videos a week, one live show here, one on each of our channels, and that's that for the future. I would love to put a concerted effort into our live shows and making them like a late night show with people to interview all the time, lots of shenanigans. That's, if you ask me what I want, that's what I want to move towards. I want our other channels to be successful so we can do the other stuff when we want, but also I want to move to a point where we can focus on this. All right. We've been promising it this whole time. Let's talk about some Fast and the Furious. And I don't know how to not make this another hour's worth of conversation. I mean, we certainly can if it goes there, but why don't we just start with Hannah? Do you like Fast and the Furious? Because I think I'm going to title this video, because I also am going to ask you a little bit later, is Fast and the Furious good? Because that's what I think the title of this is going to be the whole time. But do you like it?
That is not a simple answer. Okay, so my feelings toward if I like it or not. I mean, obviously I went to the movie. I didn't go kicking and screaming. I didn't cry about it.
Yep.
And when I was done, I didn't go, that was awful. I had some feelings about it whenever we walked out of the theater. So
don't go too far about this most recent movie. If you don't know New Fast, there's no way you don't know. If you exist, you don't not know there's a new Fast and Furious movie. And if you say so, you're lying, because you saw the billboard, you got a YouTube ad for it, you've seen something. Or, the news is talking about it a ton because it's supposed to be the movie that brings the movies back or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you like it? You're not going to make anybody mad. No, I think most people don't. Not most. But
if you said to me, Hannah, let's watch Fast and Furious tonight, I will go, please no. Like, I can't say that I like it.
Okay.
But I don't.
You won't say you don't like it. That's fine. It's perfectly fair. Let me start off by talking about Fast and Furious in general with this, because I told you earlier I was going to get into it from like a literary, I keep saying literary, but like pop culture? Where is its place? What is it? One of the podcasts that I've listened to the earliest before I actually, now I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of clips from a lot of channels because that's the thing now, and that's what this channel started as. I don't know how many people realize that, but we were doing our live show on a regular channel, and this channel was to just put the clips on, which is a very smart thing to do if you ever start a podcast, upload, and it ever becomes at all in any way watchable by any number of people. You start a separate channel to put short clickbait clips on from the show. That's what this channel started as. And me consuming podcasts, I don't listen to too many long form podcasts. I listen to clips of stuff I find important from said podcast. But one podcast I have been listening to for a while is Adam Savage's podcast that he does with a couple of his guys from their team. They have a couple different podcasts they do, but the one I listen to is the one with Adam. And I remember on one of those, I remember, what's his name? Not Will, the other one.
Norm.
Norm, I'm sorry. I know Norm's not watching. I don't know why I'm blanking, because I don't think there's another human being outside of Norm besides Adam and the other guy on the show that I've listened to talk more. But Norm, I'm just blanking. That's all it was. Norm said one time to Adam, because Adam's is an older generation and was not into Fast and Furious. He's probably seen some of them, but he's not, it's not one of the fandoms he's super into. But Norm described Fast and Furious to Adam as this generation's Star Wars. And I remember him saying that, and I remember not understanding, but I remember thinking, I got to think about that because I don't know what he means. And he didn't that time when he said it go on to explain it too much. But I do remember thinking, oh God, someone's gonna tear them apart in the comments because you're gonna compare our precious Star Wars to Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that's where my brain immediately went, and I was like, no, there's a deeper meaning there, and I need to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm sitting here. I had kind of an epiphany not too long ago where I was like, oh, I get what he means. That I'm still not so clear on now. Like, I'm not gonna be able to delve into that as clearly as I wish I could because it's still just so confusing. But he was just basically saying that generationally, it was the movie that you were captivated by Star Wars if you were a little bit older than we are because I'm 31. I wasn't even born for the first Star Wars, but I certainly did grow up with it around. But I wasn't a teenager when it came out.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the theater and see this movie that was unlike anything that changed my life. You hear people joke all the time. I went to see Star Wars and it changed my life.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. I don't think too many kids will say that about Fast and Furious, but I do recall watching it for the first time on VHS in my home in Kentucky that I grew up in and just being like, I love cars. It did. The first one did. Now, mind you, I was like 10.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more you can talk about the movie for a 10-year-old. The women, there's a lot there. But the first one was a pretty good movie, especially for when did it come out? 99, Fast and the Furious release date.
I mean, I do remember watching the first one, and I went, I finished the movie, and I was like, yeah, that was okay.
The first one, especially if you exist now in a world where Fast and Furious is as ridiculous as it is, and then you go back and watch the first one after never seeing it, you're probably gonna be like, that was really normal.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about Fast and Furious from a woman's standpoint.
The first one came out in 2001. Well, yeah. I mean, you can get into that as much as you want to or don't want to. I don't care. But when he said that it's this generation of Star Wars, I was like, what do you mean? What? But that's kind of what I've come to. Is there's just not a lot of series of movies that come out that captivate you because you were the right age.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for me. Being 10 years old, so it came out in 2001. So yeah, I was 10 or 11. And I was like, this is great. And then it wasn't too many years later that the second one came out. And of course, Tokyo Drift came out. And there's a little bit to say here too, because do you recall watching Tokyo Drift? So Hannah doesn't have the retention for films that I do. For you, entertainment, and you can speak for yourself on this if you want, but like from my standpoint, when you watch movies, they're usually just kind of on. You don't always pay the utmost attention to them, except for maybe a very select few movies.
Yeah.
Whereas I just like, I'm zoned in. I have a really high retention rate for this stuff, but I do.
mean, yeah, my adulthood has definitely changed the way that I watch movies. Like I feel guilty if I sit there and watch something for 2
Right.
hours and not do something else.
A lot of people will say what you're saying, but about books, they can't just get into them like they used to. And that's certainly something I struggle with. But like, I'm explaining this because, like, not to hate on you, but because it's important in the conversation. Because I can recall your reactions to your first time seeing these movies, whereas like you're not going to recall it as clearly as I do.
Yeah, I mean, since Fast and the Furious wasn't something that I wanted to watch ever. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm going to remember this.
Right, which makes sense.
It was like thrown at me. So I was like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not prepared to like remember this. So it just didn't really sink into my subconscious.
For sure. But I do remember you being surprised that the first one wasn't bad, because by the time you watched the first Fast and Furious, I don't know what we were on, because there's 9 of them now. 11 if you count Tokyo Drift and the Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Yeah.
By that time that we went back and watched the first ones together, I think the 6th or 7th one was out. And by that time, it had begun to turn towards where it is now, which is like, it's almost goofs and gags, right? Like the newest movie, they're like talking about going to outer space and doing crazy stuff that just is unthinkable. But you watch that first one and none of that's there.
Right.
It's just this like...
It's believable. It's normal.
Boobies. It's boobies and cars and kind of a bromance crime thing. That's it. It's a very late 90s, early 2000s movies.
Very male.
It came out around the same time. The remake of Gone in 60 Seconds. Well, I specify remake. The one that came out in late 90s, early 2000. A year before Nicolas Cage. Gone in 60 Seconds.
I remember watching that one. I remember liking that movie whenever I was a kid.
Well, that's funny, because if you'd have watched the first Fast and Furious, you would have had at that time, you just didn't watch it, but you would have had a very similar feeling to it, because they're very similar.
I think I did watch it when it first came out, because I think my brother brought it home and he was like, I want to watch this movie. I remember, like, I didn't hate it. Like, it was fine. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. But, you know, it is one of those, it's a guys in cars movie. Like,
it is.
There's not a lot of appeal there for a young girl.
It certainly wasn't made for young girls.
No, I mean, Paul Walker was incredibly
easy on the eyes,
attractive, and so you're like, oh, it's a cute boy, and like that was the only thing that I was like, oh yeah, I like this movie because he's cute. Like,
so you're more into the Paul Walker type than the Vin Diesel type.
100%. I have no shame in saying that.
Well, I'm not at all suggesting I look like Vin Diesel, but
you are more Paul Walker than Vin Diesel.
Somebody clip that.
Vin Diesel. I'm gonna say something mean. I'm not gonna say that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen to my voice, right?
Okay, sure.
And the size and I mean, even at my prettiest, at like 20, when did we meet? 23, when I was like skinny and muscular. And, you know, not overgrown hair. Maybe that's what you mean when you met me.
I guess so.
So what this podcast is going to be titled now is my journey from being a Paul Walker type to a Vin Diesel type. I mean, Vin Diesel's a muscular man, which I'm not.
Sure, but like I'm not.
It's a bad joke. It's fine. It's just interesting to learn what you think. What were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about the first movie, and like I was trying to say that there isn't a lot of appeal for
and I agree.
young girl.
Honestly, we're going the long way around to say that, you know, that absolutely, that makes sense. We're going the long way around to say, you know, it's a guy's movie and not a girl's movie, which is fine. But what's interesting, though, has what I really want to talk about, because I think I'm going to title, if you're going to already know if you're watching this video, I'm going to title, Is Fast and Furious Good? And I want to make an argument that it is. As crappy as it actually is, I want to make an argument that crappiness is good. Because the people that are making it are experienced actors, experienced filmmakers, people that know how to write a story. The guy that's writing and directing a lot of these Fast and Furious movies has made other movies that you wouldn't believe it was the same guy. Okay? these people know how to make good movies. And so there's got to be part of you, if you're looking at it too close, which I'm the type that's going to look at it too close. Not everyone's going to be this way. But if you look at it really close, you're going to see a lot of great filmmakers that know how to do something that you would argue could be better. And you're going to find a really confusing mess of movies, and you're going to be like, why are they bad, or why are they like this? And, honestly, that first Fast and Furious movie is a great film for what it was in 2001. It just honestly was. And to further this conversation, Tokyo Drift, which was just a spin-off in name only, and then at the last minute had a after the scenes credit, spoiler alert, I guess if you haven't seen Tokyo Drift, what are you doing listening to this? There was a after the scene credits in Tokyo Drift that had Vin Diesel in it to set up the next regular Fast and Furious movie. And there's this really interesting story. I think it goes something like they weren't, Vin Diesel wasn't in Fast and Furious 2. Tyrese Gibson was. So it was Paul Walker and Tyrese Gibson. I hope I'm getting his name right. Tyrese Gibson? Yes, okay, I got it right. I was just making sure. I didn't want to call him the wrong thing. It was Paul Walker, Tyrese Gibson, great movie, but no mention really at all of, not mention, but no sign of Vin Diesel. And then Tokyo Drift came out, and no mention of Paul Walker, Tyrese Gibson, Vin Diesel. Like, what is this? But then I think in the course of making that movie, they were finally like, all right, now Vin Diesel's like, yeah, I'll make another one. And so they teased Vin Diesel at the end of that one, and then, of course, they were back to kind of normal by Fast and Furious 3. And there's kind of a long, weird history there. It's especially weird if you're really into it. But, even up to 3, it was a pretty normal story. Not too much craziness. They would always, every movie would kind of have this bigger stunt, goofier stunt. But in the first one, it was just like outrunning a train, like doing a drag race, and then you have to get there before the train does. And that was kind of edgy. And then the second one, there was kind of the goofiness with the, shooting the guy with the compressed air out of the car. Do you remember the line? I say it all the time. Shoot, ejectocito, cuz. If you're at all a Fast and Furious fan, you can definitely drop some one-liners from any of the movies down below. But it at some point though just started to get ridiculous. By 4 or 5, it started to get to where like the stunts were bigger and crazier, and that's what they did. And so, what I think there's a great discussion to be had is like, is there not a place in this world for movies that are just trying to top themselves for the sake of topping themselves, right? Because let's listen, a little bit of spoilers here. I already kind of said it, but like, they shoot a car into space in the new one. Sorry if that spoils. It's not a major plot point. You're not going to lose anything hearing that. But it's ridiculous. It's not real. There's nothing about the physics of it that work out the way that they do it. And a lot of people are going to watch that and be like, this is ridiculous. I'm walking out of the theater. But I'm sitting there laughing my butt off because it's such a great exercise in ridiculous filmmaking. And I, honest to God, believe, I think there's some people that would make an argument that the people making this thought it was funny and that the people thought it was cool. But I'm telling you, the filmmakers sit there and like, no, we're going to space and it's going to be hilarious. People aren't going to get it. It's a thing. It's an exercise in doing a thing.
I mean, that's kind of my argument on why the movies are not good. They're not believable content. You can't take them seriously. There's nothing about them that is like all that like in depth. Like they're just movies being outlandish for the sake of being outlandish.
You don't think there's a place for that though? I mean,
sure, but I don't think that makes them a good movie. I think it makes it a comedy. Like it's
it is. I mean, honest to God, I think one of the funniest film franchises out there for me personally. One of the funniest ones to me is Fast and Furious. There are
but I feel like people want to take it as a serious, like a serious movie. I don't think so. I
don't think so at all.
I feel like you are more in the mindset of the creators of the movie. Like I think the people who made it are like, we want this to be a farce.
Well,
But
there are certainly people that want to take like the storyline, that family element, it's for family, and that stuff has become memed, and there is a way in which maybe you could look at it and say, they try to take that serious, but then they ruin it with all the car memeage. But I don't think so. I think, I always, when I talk about films, I always talk about the kinds of films that are an exercise in something. And I think there was one live show we did where I got onto a god-awful long Christopher Nolan kick. But, some people love Christopher Nolan movies and some people can't stand them. And for my filmmaking friends, the ones that can't stand them are the ones that just like films for the sake of film and the seriousness, that probably lean a little bit more way the way you're talking. But I enjoy when a film is an exercise in something, right? So Christopher Nolan's films, he's always trying to find new ways to manipulate time as a vehicle through which to tell a story. Right, so some of his movies are all out of order, and that's the experiment in time. One of my favorite films, like top 5, The Prestige by Christopher Nolan. It's just told out of order. That's just a weird time narrative. I think Dunkirk is one of his more interesting films because it's literally just a story that we already know. We already know what people said and did in this story, but he told it in the scope of splicing together 3 different narratives from the same day. One is told over 24 hours, one is told over an hour, and one is told over a minute. And all 3 of those things are spliced together. And that was just an experiment in time. So people went and watched that movie and expected traditional Christopher Nolan thriller, and all they saw was a traditional war movie cut together weird as heck.
Yeah.
But I knew going in, this is Christopher Nolan. He's doing a thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here and I'm prepared for. I think, personally, that Fast and the Furious is good because it only ever strived to be what it only ever was. And if you go prepared for that, you will enjoy it inside the scope of what it was only meant to be. And all these expectations you're putting on it are expectations you're putting on it from the standpoint of just other movies. What?
Yeah.
Because if you sit down now, don't do this to yourself. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. But if you sit down and watch all of them back to back, there is a natural progression into what it has become that, from step to step, I think makes sense.
I think is a de-evolution.
You think it's devolved?
I think
Interesting.
it started as something that was like a good quality movie of like, this is just 2 bros like doing some work,
stealing some cars,
trying to like do the car thing. Like, okay, I can get behind that story. And then it like slowly devolved into, we're gonna have these guys team up and do outlandish, stupid, ridiculous things because it would be a spectacle. And it's like, there's not even like, there's nothing wholesome there. There's nothing holding it together. It's just like, how can we send a car to space? What's the story? What's a story that we can send a car to space? And they just like went there.
It's really funny. I'm sitting here trying to think of why they sent that car to space. Okay, I remember now.
Yeah.
It took me a second to remember.
It's a satellite thing.
Yeah, it's satellites.
And it's just like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, it does, though. It makes sense in the content of the movie.
It doesn't make Vin Diesel and his crew need to go take care of that particular issue. Like,
you know what's so funny? My biggest problem with the movie, it certainly had nothing to do with space. It certainly had nothing to do with shooting cars out of airplanes, which has happened in a lot of the movies.
Yeah.
None of that gave me pause. I walked away from the movie bothered. And if you really don't want spoiler alerts, fast forward like 2 minutes. The bad guy in the film is Vin Diesel's little brother.
Yeah.
Portrayed by
John Cena.
And he's a great villain in this movie. I loved every second of him in the film. In the context of the movie and what the movie's storylines have always been about, he was great. But he was the bad guy and he was a great villain. And then all of a sudden, all at once, he wasn't the villain anymore because the other villains turned on him.
Yeah.
Not because there was a story arc where he had a change of heart and everything was cool and he was good with his brother.
It was just
like
eat or be eaten.
Yeah, and then they acted all cool after that, and I was like, that was a little loose. So but again,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think with these movies being what they are and the scope of what they've become from where they came from and all that, I think it's silly. I don't think it's just silly to criticize them for plot. Of course you can. Of course you can criticize them for the over the top stunts, but I feel almost dumb even criticizing it for the bad plot, because like I've never went to the theater to see the new Fast and Furious movie because I thought the plot was good. I've never once had that
Doesn't that
thought.
make it a bad movie then if the plot's not good? Like, wouldn't the better movie be these two brothers and their story about their dad and how they had a falling out and then they come together?
So you're saying
and it would have been a much better
You
movie
would have
if it
liked
was
it-
just about the brothers and not about all the like science-y send cars to space shit. Like,
So you would have liked it better if they just left out the bullshit.
yeah, if it was everything a Fast and Furious movie doesn't like has to be, like it has to have the cars and the
Right.
fast chases and the gunfire. If you took all of that out and then just focused on the plot of these two brothers, it would have been a much better movie.
I am probably the wrong person to have this conversation with, because like I think I've only ever walked out of a theater once because the movie was so bad. And I can't remember what it was. It was just like I can't remember. It was some.
There was one for me that I couldn't sit through, and you're going to be very mad at me for
Oh, really? What is it?
the Social Network, the Facebook movie.
Oh, really? Did we see that in theaters?
I watched it with my friends in high school.
Oh, you left. Okay.
I didn't leave. I borrowed someone else's phone so I could sit there
Oh.
and do something else.
So have you watched it again in adulthood?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it any more?
Yeah, because I
Okay.
understood. Like, at the time, I was like, I did not want to watch a movie about
Right.
that. Like, it was just not what I was ready for.
And it's a very cerebral. It's all dialogue.
Yeah, it's a thinker, and I just didn't want to do that.
It's written by Aaron Sorkin and directed
Yeah.
by God, what's his name? I'm gonna have to
I
Google
don't
it.
know, but like when I watched it again,
Well, he
I was
directed
just
Gone
like,
Girl. And
Yeah, I don't know his name, but when I watched it again, I understood what it was, and like I enjoyed the movie. But the whole time I'm just sitting there like, this guy's an asshole. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
This sucks.
David Fincher. It's a Fincher
Oh,
film.
okay,
I don't
yeah.
know why I can remember that, because that rolls off the tongue, right? It's a Fincher film. He made Gone Girl, Social Network, and of course he made one of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies, and I think his next film is actually finally the sequel to his Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is confusing because there's multiple Girl with the Dragon franchises.
Yeah, that's a series
franchises
I have not watched any of.
Yeah, it's not something I know a lot about. I just know there's, I guess, multiple franchises or reiterations of the same franchise. I don't know. But he's directed one of them and is directing a second one. I'm a fan. But that brings up another good point, right? I love Aaron Sorkin films. Anything that he's written now, as far as directing goes, he's only directed 2 of the films he's written. The latest one being the Chicago 13 film on, I guess it was Netflix.
Yeah,
And then what's the name of the poker movie?
Molly's Game.
Molly's Game was something else he wrote and directed. And, again, I think when we have these film conversations in the future on this podcast, and I've even done it in the past, what I'm going to think of is my other filmmaking friends who I know will agree and disagree with me to varying degrees. And like I remember a lot of my filmmaking friends not being terribly interested in Sorkin's first directorial debut when he did Molly's Game, because it wasn't, it was just so Sorkin. It was like Sorkin married Aaron Sorkin and had a Sorkin baby that made a movie about Sorkin. Like it was just, it was just absorbed in that West Wing talky talk, like the West Wing TV show that he wrote. I love that. I love that he just shines at what he does. And so you could replace this whole Fast and the Furious conversation replace you with one of my filmmaking friends, and it would come up the same way. They would say the same kinds of things that you're saying, and I would disagree, because like at the end of the day, I think you'll find I am 6 million times more accepting of films, of books even, than I think most people are.
Yeah, I mean, the Fast and Furious movies are what they are. You go in knowing you're going to see cars, you're going to see Vin Diesel, you're going to see boobs, you're going to see guns. Like, that's just what you expect. And without it, it wouldn't be one of those movies. So like on that hand, like
Now you're just going to make the point I was trying to make. Now you're going to agree with me?
no, like on that hand, like you like the reason I feel like I don't like those movies that much is because I've seen that movie. I know what it happens. They're gonna go into a car chase. There's gonna be a bad guy.
There's gonna be a betrayal.
There's gonna be some guns.
Yeah.
They're gonna talk about family, and it's gonna be over. Like, I don't need to watch this.
Google Fast and the Furious family memes, and you'll have a good time. You're right, but I personally think that exactly what you just said is not only a good thing, but it's the point of the thing.
Yeah.
I love going in. Listen, your least favorite movie in the world, I can probably sit through it and make an 2-hour podcast after it, telling you at least what I liked about it. Because here's my history as a filmmaker, as someone who is an aspiring writer, and wants to do a lot of things in written form. I remember sitting through my very first writing classes in college, trying to get a creative writing degree, which we could talk about at another time, but I remember sitting in these classes that were done in the round, right? Mm-hmm. Round table. You present the person to your right with this week's writing, and then you go home, you read that person's writing, and you come back and critique it. Or that was the exercise sometimes. Sometimes it was literally, it was an 8-person class, and you took all 8 people's, short story home. You read all of them and came back with critiques for all of them. Mm-hmm. And this is fine. This is, if you have in any way been anywhere near a writing class, this is going to sound familiar to you. This is the point of them. But I recall having this class with 10 to 12 people, my first writing class, being very excited about it, being very aspirational as a writer. And I remember being in a class, now mind you, at the time I was probably 21, 22, and everyone else in the class was probably like freshman age, so 18 to 20. Some of them serious, some of them just curious. What am I going to do? What classes am I going to take? And some of them, very few of them, maybe me and one other person being incredibly serious about it. Hermione Granger to the max, right? Well-read, at least able to write grammatically correct, able to speak grammatically, various levels of... I don't want to go too far that way. I don't think speaking grammatically correct is important. I don't want to put an emphasis on that, but... I should say speaking clearly. Yeah. Communicating ideas clearly is what I mean. I remember sitting in these classes and going around, or it being my day and having everyone go around and critique my writing.
Yeah.
Right? And I can take criticism with the best of them, but I remember just getting so frustrated by the end of this class because there was only one person in it that took it seriously. And I remember... most of the criticisms for most other people's writings was always frustratingly born from a place of, if I don't critique well, I'm not going to get a good grade.
Yeah, like they had to say something.
And honest to God, I found myself completely put off by writing from an academic standpoint, right? Which just I thought I found my place. I thought I found my people. I was put off with it. I was put off by it because I couldn't find anyone that would ever openly discuss any movies. And, poetry classes or classes about writing prose or anything always just devolved to this point of criticism. And I never, ever had many experiences where we ever talked about the positive.
Yeah.
And that just turned me off. I don't know why people don't want to go into watching a movie, reading a book, wanting more than anything to like it.
Yeah.
And I have found myself now that story transitions into making films with friends, and a lot of your filmmaking friends, if you have filmmaking friends, are going to be film buffs, and some of them are going to be purists, and you get this in every avenue, right? Think about the people that drop by our Discords and are retro purists and hate anything that is emulated or is a ROM, right? This happens in anything. They're the purists. I have so many filmmaking friends that I like movies they like, and we can bond over those, but we can't talk about anything outside of those because it's like the same thing. They just don't like anything else. But funny enough, I do have some of my closest friends. Maybe it's coincidence they're my closest friends. Maybe it's not, who like everything like I do. So I think of like my friend Solar. I remember, earlier on being a little bit afraid to address some film topics because like I thought maybe he'd be one of these purists or whatever and wouldn't want to talk about these things. But I remember talking about the latest Fast and Furious. He's like, yeah, I actually just left the theater to see it too. This was funny. That was funny. And now we're talking about a guy who has an immense Criterion collection of films.
Yeah.
These are DVDs made by it's hard to explain what they are if you don't know, but they take the fancier classical films, the more popular artsy directors, and remaster the footage and then add on their own bonus features and stuff. And this is a guy that takes movies serious more than anyone I know, this good friend of mine. And but like the thing I love about him that probably makes him one of my best friends in the world is that he just loves film for the sake of the experience of watching film, no matter what it is. So we can bond over. I can bond in 1 second with him about older Quentin Tarantino films, and then Paul Thomas Anderson films, and then even these obscure films from another country from this era, and then immediately bond over the ridiculousness but hilarity of Fast and Furious 9.
Yeah.
And
the highbrow and the lowbrow.
That's just, I don't think I could have one without the other. I don't want to watch Paul Thomas Anderson and then watch more Paul Thomas Anderson. The way that I watch movies and have always watched movies is I watch Paul Thomas Anderson and then I watch Fast and Furious and then I watch Quentin Tarantino, or I'm all of a sudden, or even Fincher films are a little bit more highbrow, or let's just even get a little bit more obscure but still kind of mainstream, Lynch films. And like, what was it yesterday came up? David Lynch films. He's a filmmaker that makes some stuff that, like, unless you're just kind of into crazier, older films, you're not going to like. But I don't know. I don't know what point I'm trying to make with this. Because, like, I completely respect your opinion of not liking Fast and Furious.
You think that there is a definite need for variety, so this thing is
I think
in a world on its own.
I think if you only like black and white French films and you don't watch anything else, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to watch. I don't think any of you need to go watch Fast and Furious. And honestly, I don't think anyone's going to get the point I'm trying to make unless they've probably stuck around this far, because I don't think I've gotten around to it until now. But like, I just personally like whatever. Like what the movie we watched last night. It premiered yesterday, I think. The Tomorrow War, starring Chris Pratt, is a time travel movie. We're not going to get into it and give you an official review. I recommend it if you're into time travel movies.
It was good.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was full of plot holes and all kinds of other things. But I enjoyed the crap out of it because it was just this exercise in being a time travel war movie.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of those out there. I could suggest some others if you want, but that's not what we're here for. I just watched it for what it was, and I enjoyed it. And I feel like I personally, whenever I have film conversations with people that aren't able to get into as wide as a throw of movies as I personally possess the ability to, I feel like I would hate my life a little bit more. Right? I don't love Fast and Furious because it's good. I barely even love it because I'm nostalgic for it. I love it because, for me, I enjoy being able to enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it would be so boring for me personally, with as wildly all over the place as my mind is, to just only be able to love one linear type of movie.
I mean, I have there's just nothing really there for me because, like,
now that Paul Walker's gone, Hannah's like, I'm out.
Let's start with that. There is no attractive men in it. I mean, if you want to say that, Tyrese Gibson is,
I'm into that.
He's not bad looking.
He's good looking. I don't think Ludacris is ugly.
Ludacris is fine.
I'm into that.
But like Vin Diesel, he looks
that bald
like a
head,
thumb.
baby. I love it.
The Rock wasn't there this time, so like
Is The Rock? Do you think The Rock's good looking?
He's a good looking dude.
But you don't think Vin Diesel is?
No, he's not my type. But like, there's just not a lot of male appeal for the sake of male appeal.
It's so good. I'm not sitting here bald. If I was sitting here bald, this would be so much funnier because I would look just like Vin Diesel.
But I mean, like, but really, there wasn't a lot of care and concern for the female audience in this movie. There was, if you don't like cars, like, who cares about really any of it? I don't care about cars. I don't personally like a lot of gunfire. Honestly, the whole time I was sitting there watching the movie, all I could think about was the cost of the damages that they were adding up. So like, I'm watching all the warfare going on, and they're tearing down buildings,
but
flying.
That's every franchise, because like when
Michael Bay, like all that kind of stuff,
or like superhero movies when they just nuke the town.
And
right?
I think about those things all the time. Like, I'm way more concerned about that minivan you just smashed, that middle-aged single mom now has to go find a new car. Like, you just ruined her life.
Let me make this point. I think the answer to the question is no. Fast and Furious movies aren't good. I guess that's unequivocal, but I also just have to make the point that I don't think it matters. Well, I could give a whole speech about subjectivity, because there are probably some people who just think they are great movies, and that's fine. I personally think they're fine and a little bit more than fine, but I think if I were like, I don't think I would ever wanted to be a filmmaker or want to do what I currently want to do if I couldn't watch movies, if I had to watch movies like you do. I get it. Plenty of people watch all kinds of movies and can't see anything but plot holes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're definitely that way, because like last night when we were watching The Tomorrow War, you were just like, no, like,
that wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
He'd be dead.
a couple certain points you were just like, mm-mm. And honestly, that probably took a little while for me to get used to when we started dating, because I when I watch a movie for the first time, I'm in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can attest to this. Sometimes I watch a movie 4 or 5 times in a week. Sometimes I don't do it a lot, but like some of my more favorite films, or when a film comes out that I really like, or something I think needs to be studied so that I can figure out what that vehicle is, like I talked about with Christopher Nolan and the vehicle that he uses, that is time to tell the story. And sometimes I want to watch a movie to experience it, and then I want to watch it. I literally watch a movie to experience it, and then I'll watch it just to pay attention to the dialogue. I do this more with TV shows. Like my favorite TV show is, of course, West Wing. I've mentioned. How many times have you seen me watch West Wing all the way through? Like
a lot,
a dozen times now. The Newsroom, also by Aaron Sorkin, and then one of my favorites of all time is Justified. And I'll watch an episode of it to enjoy it. This is more so when it was new, and I would watch it again to just listen to the dialogue. I don't know if I'd ever watch it a third time, but if I did, it'd probably just be to enjoy it again. But I like experiencing things this way, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I had to do it the way you do it. But that's, I guess, what makes us different people.
Yeah. I mean, I find it entertaining to go, like, that would never happen.
Right.
Like, you can't do that.
You're also not a rewatcher.
On some things.
You are way more now accepting of it than you used to be.
Yeah.
We used to all be getting fights because you're like, no, I've already seen it.
Well, you also are someone that, like, will end something and go, let's rewatch it right now. And I'm like, we literally just watched it. Like, no. But I'm a little more accepting of that now too.
Well, I think this has been an interesting conversation, because literally, like, I don't think we've had any serious disagreements here, as much as it's just like we've explained really two polar opposites, or at least an aspect of our relationship or personalities in which we are polar opposites.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a good example of that, which actually I'm kind of interested to watch this back now that we're about done, and listen to it back, because I think it's an interesting discussion, and it'll honestly, for future shows, probably be an interesting discussion, because I think we'll always make movies and media as a part of our conversations.
Yeah.
And we're just always going to differ so much. I find it funny, especially. But my favorite part of today's episode, more so than the difference in opinion on such a ridiculous movie, anyways, is you thinking I look more like Paul Walker than Vin Diesel. I don't think there's any.
If there's a spectrum, you're like,
if there
this
is,
way more than this way.
The important word is if there were a spectrum that made sense to put me on, where the ends of the spectrum were Paul Walker and Vin Diesel.
You'd be somewhere in the middle, but like
I
more
don't.
toward.
I
Paul
can't
Walker
think of a
than
single
Vin
feature
Diesel.
about me other than maybe my size that I look like either one of them. And Vin Diesel's actually not even that big; he's just muscular. So
Yeah.
they make him look big, but that's hilarious. And I'm gonna wholly
I'm glad that's your takeaway from this.
I'm gonna wholly believe that you're just picturing me at 21 and not 31.
Well, if there's any takeaway from my point, there's
I think that's a package. It's fine.
okay. There are two things that we need to.
Actually, you keep talking. I'm gonna go check.
There are two buttons I want to put on the end of this. One is Fast and the Furious needs to be a little bit more concerned about the female audience. I mean, all these guys are going to the theater with their girlfriends, hopefully, or wives, and they need
Opposed
something.
to what? They're not girlfriends?
I don't know. They're going with their bros. I don't know.
Okay.
But if they're going with their girlfriends and their wives, and you want them to also enjoy going and not like telling their husbands that they can't go to this movie because it's horrible and they don't want to go, make something there for the female audience to be entertained by. Like, I don't know, throw some fashion in there.
But right,
like,
I'm hoping maybe
something.
someone will comment like, I'm sure there's plenty of females that go because they like Letty.
Sure. I mean,
Because
there's.
her story arc through the whole story is pretty cool.
I mean,
she's
it's far fetched.
she's a pretty. She may not have started out the best female character, but she's the series is I don't know. We're not gonna get into that.
But like the fashion that they did put into this movie. What was the first thing I said to you when we walked out of the
I know
theater?
exactly what you're talking about. No, well, I remember when we were in. Maybe not. Maybe I don't know what you're talking about, but I know there was a very specific scene where they were going to meet John Cena.
Oh yeah.
And someone had on a pair of color
They
block
did.
jeans identical to the ones you make.
Yeah. They were not my jeans that I make, but like they were the exact same style. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, hey, color block jeans. Because that's all I had to look
They put-
at in the movie was
they-
just some jeans.
One
some
pair of jeans.
fashion. The first thing I said to you when we walked out of the theater was bowl cuts do not look good on anyone.
Oh, because Charlize Theron.
She had a bowl cut. She's the prettiest girl,
She's
woman in the world.
Literally one of the prettiest women.
And
on
they
earth.
put a bowl cut on her, and she looked horrible. Like, she
see-
couldn't even pull it off.
But see, it's different opinions. I thought she looked perfectly fine.
Oh, it was so distracting.
See, I'm just my personality, everything about me, I'm just like, whatever.
like, shave her head. It would have been less distracting.
I thought she looked great.
I thought she looked ridiculous.
I mean, she definitely looked like she belonged in a Fast and Furious movie. I guess
No.
that was probably the point. But we're gonna have to end the conversation here because, I think there's a certain way in which this whole conversation might have just been pointless because the real moral of the story is just like it just doesn't matter. You're into it or you're not because you're just gonna be on wildly opposite sides. But let's end here. I am for Charlize Theron with a bowl cut. I should
am
create a
not.
poll and let me know if you are too. But I don't know. Our podcasts are getting 500 or 600, 700 to 800 views right now. I'll be interested to know how many people even care at all and wanted to see it. I'm sure the vast majority of our audience probably leans towards no. But I'm hoping a big enough portion of the audience leans towards I'll listen to them talk about it anyways. So let us know your thoughts below. Liked it, don't liked it, liked the first one, disliked the other ones. Something I meant to mention earlier, Christopher Nolan, who I brought up several times in this. I know I'm saying we're going to wrap it up, but I thought of one more thing I keep thinking about saying. It's been in a ton of news articles lately that Christopher Nolan loves Tokyo Drift.
Cool. Good for him.
And I think that just proves more of your point. They started out as decent films and then warped into
They've
ridiculous.
just evolved. They're beating it with like a dead horse.
Well-
There's no need for any more. Like,
I
it's
can't-
done.
I
It's the
can't-
sequel nobody needed.
If they can top shooting Tyrese Gibson into space,
No,
I will watch it.
you don't need to.
And I will love every minute of it. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Come back and hang out with us next time. Go watch our next or last weekly video if you haven't seen it already. If you're watching this the day that it's posted, it may not be out yet, but it will be out soon. We went and did a little bit more travel thrifting. It was fun. And we're going to do some more of that next week. So subscribe, check the links to this channel. Go check out our main channel. Go check out our Discord if you haven't already. And until next time, peace out.